Morning, folks. Day soap is this is Mitchell's Wool Fat. As you can tell by the box here, that I've had this one here for a moment. It also came with a container. You can order Mitchell's Wool Fat as I guess you might say as a refill if you prefer to go just with the refill as opposed to both the ceramic container and soap. But anyway, this is the box that it came in. That's what it looks like there on the back side. It's got various different things on the box there. Um, Let's set the box over here. Here's what the lid looks like. Like I say, it is ceramic. There's nothing here to help seal it up or anything quite like that if you're kind of wondering about the container itself, at least the one that I've got. So there's not, in other words, like a rubber seal right here to seal the container up if that is a factor for you. I have it whipped up here. That's what the container looks like. Now this, oh, got some of the water running out there. Some of the, I guess you might say, reviews I've read about this, some complain over time that the soap cracks. And some of these cracks, in other words, aren't small cracks, but as opposed to bigger cracks. And for me, you can kind of see right there that the soap just, it does fit in there, but it's not a tight fit. So a person might want to take a moment and just, I guess you might say, press it in there. For me, I only had one big crack, and it came from the center, goes to the outside. It doesn't affect how it lathers or anything of the sort, as well as the small ones. So if it's something that bothers you, yeah, I would just take a moment and just press it down in the container, whatever container you might use, and it works just fine for me. This particular brush here I got from Metalworks, and this is what the bottom of it looks like right there. And if I remember right, this is a whip dog knot. This one here resembles a natural looking bristle, if you will. As it goes for the scent, my nose, it just picks up soap. I mean, it's not off-putting, but there's no, in other words, scent added to it. It's just whatever is naturally occurring. So for me, it's not off-putting. Some people, some folks' noses are better than mine, and I've read some reviews where some folks don't particularly care for the scent. For me, there's a scent there, but it's not off-putting, at least not for me. I'm going to be following up the shave today. This one here is a Black Amber scent. I've got a link down below for this sort of thing if you want to check it out. This one here, I really do like this scent. As a matter of fact, this is the only aftershave I have from them. It's kind of funny. It's kind of like fine accoutrements. In other words, once you get the platinum, it's like you're kind of stuck. You really like that particular aftershave. Well, this one here is one of those that fall in that category. This Black Amber is pretty nice. It works well for my nose. As it goes for the razor blade of the day, working with a Personna blade, and I have it in the Merkur 45. This one here, as you can see, it's Bakelite. It's been around for a while. You might have a tough time finding it. I don't think it's made anymore, but the plastic case that you can get to go along with it, sometimes it sells with the case, sometimes without the case. I like the plastic case. I like cases. It's very functional. You can put a couple of tucks of blades in there, but you can kind of see, for the most part, the handle is hollow up to the point where I guess you might say, I'm going to call it a cap nut. It's there. It may be kind of hard to see. It's metal, but it has a cap. In other words, it's not a pass-through type nut. So in other words, you'll have to take a cotton swab or something of the sort, like a Q-tip, for instance, and may have to clean out down through there. But it's not a pass-through, complete through and through. And there's what it looks like there on the underside. Excuse me. So anyway, it is a very lightweight shaver. I guess you might say it's getting to the point where you could almost consider this iconic when it comes to Bakelite type razors. Very lightweight. I've already put a hot towel to the face this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and wet the face and get started with the Phoenix Artisan Accoutrements Ice Cube and talk a little bit more about the Mitchell's Wool Fat. Some folks seem to have, I guess you might say, issues with it, the soap lathering. Other folks, not so much. For me, it is not to, I guess you might say, put a hex on it or anything like that. Mitchell's wool fat. I didn't get Mitchell's wool fat until quite some time after I learned how to lather with Williams mug soap. And with Williams mug soap being the one that taught me more or less how to lather, I don't find Mitchell's wool fat difficult to lather. I think a lot of times it just it takes a little bit more attention to detail, if you will. But a lot of folks they talk about the difficulties lathering it. I don't experience that sort of thing. I treat it a lot like I do Williams mug soap. I do, as you can tell, there's a little bit of water there in the bottom of the container. This is one of the few soaps that I lather in the container. I don't do very many of them like that. Most of them I scoop out of the container, put it in a bowl and bowl lather. This one here is one of the few that I lather in the container. And this particular soap seems to handle it rather well. I don't have quite the issue of anything, how can you say, growing in the bottom of the container. Seems to work well, at least for me. As it goes for slickness and glide and all that sort of thing, I don't have an issue with it. I think the refill sells for near 12, 13 bucks, depends on where you go shopping at. I think you can find it on Amazon pretty easy. But this particular razor, like I say, Merkur 45 is a bit, I would consider is right there. I think it'd be safe to say calling it iconic, because it is one of the few that started out years ago being made out of Bakelite, and there weren't that many folks that even made it like this one. Phoenix Artists and Accoutrements has some plastic ones. I think it's ABS, and I think he's even had some made out of Bakelite. But there's not that many folks that use this particular material. They've moved on to something different. So if you can find one, if you're interested, I didn't bring the case in the bathroom with me. I should have, but I do have the plastic case to go right along with it. I think it's one of those things that that this particular razor works well with, and that you got a plastic case with the razor in there. You got a couple of tucks of razor blades, so in other words, makes it easy to travel with if that's what you want to do. And it's not the case is not hard to find. The case itself will work with a Merkur Progress that's a short handle. Also works with the Merkur 34. In other words, there's more than one razor that case works well with. So that's the reason why the case probably is going to be somewhat easier to find than the razor itself. So I don't think it's in production anymore. As it goes for the blade, I would start with your favorite blade, your go-to blade. See how it works for you. You may need to adjust from there, maybe not. Maybe your favorite blade works well with this razor. But for me, I find it really easy to use. Now for me, I'm used to heavyweight razors. So it did take a few shaves for me to, I guess you might say, adjust my technique for this particular razor. But it is really easy to use. I know some folks, they started out with small razors. I mean, not small, but lightweight razors. And don't seem to have an issue with it. For me, it's just I started out with something heavy and got used to the heavy weight. In other words, the sharpness of the blade, the weight of the razor, allowing it to do the work for you. And when you starting out with something that has weight behind it, it's easier to start to develop your technique, even though it's pretty wishy-washy. But with a lightweight, I think you have to pay a little bit more attention to your technique. than what you do with the heavyweight, especially if you're going along the principle of, like, say, allowing the blade and the razor do the work for you. Just keep it gliding across your face. With one that's lightweight, you got to put a little bit more pressure to it. And figuring out what that pressure is for some folks might be problematic, because they still may be familiar with that cartridge razor where you put a lot of weight, pressure in behind it. You have to remember it's light on the pressure. As goes for the blade, for me, Personna works well. It is one of my go-to blades. I can usually pop a Personna blade in whatever razor I'm using. It works just fine. And that works well for me. Now, for other folks, Personna blades don't work so well. And I understand there's a reason why there's so many blade choices out there, is because some of these blades work better for some folks than others. A little bit of feedback on against the grain. Like I say, I do find it pretty easy to use. It's a you can almost start to consider this, in other words, like a Gillette or an old Schick or something of the sort. It's getting to the point where this one here is a bit iconic and a piece of history. And at least for me, I think the model, the name Merkur 45 sounds pretty good. Sometimes it's just the little things when it comes to marketing. Makes for a great sell. The packaging, when I ordered mine, I ordered it with the case. To me, that's the only way to order this one. Got to order the case to go right along with it. It's too handy to have. Even though I don't take this one here necessarily on trips with me, but it is great for storage. Very smooth. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, that with my routine, I have no issues with Mitchell's wool fat. Could use it as a daily driver without a problem. I whip it up just fine. I use a swirling motion. I do use it right there inside the container. I might go ahead and smash it down, the soap down in the container. I kind of like have the water on the outside just a little bit. It helps with me. It seems like I lather it quicker. I mean, we're talking about, I use a swirling motion on top of the puck, and I don't know, maybe 30, 45 seconds at that long, and I'm already ready to start shaving. It lathers pretty quick that way for me. That's what works well for me. For other folks, especially if you're using natural bristle, you may have to use a different technique. Maybe not use much water on top of the soap, maybe none at all, just whatever is left in the brush. But for me, this works out great. I really enjoy it. It's one of those that I am thinking about go ahead and, in other words, that preparing for the zombie apocalypse. In other words, get a couple of refills, and those refills are going to last me a good long while. Just a little bit of stinging this morning. Some of the typical locations, in other words, every once in a while, you get one on the neck and maybe one up, especially when it comes closer to the sideburns where things are a little bit thicker. It does have a tendency to pick up a little stinging here or there, but in other words, nothing to indicate that the shave did not perform as expected. Humphreys Witch Hazel, 16-ounce container, this one here. Usually you can find them in a much smaller container. And this is an older container. The new ones are round and different labeling. And I haven't seen one just yet in Marshall's. When we go to Marshall's, that's one of the things I look for, to see if the containers have changed just yet. At least what's showing up in Marshall's. I can find them at Walmart, the round ones that are somewhat more expensive. In other words, for instance, this one here being 16 ounces. You see I picked it up for $5.99. It doesn't have a scent to it. It's unscented, but it does have a naturally occurring scent. But at that price, 16 ounces for $6. That's a pretty good buy. The smaller containers, especially if you look at the smaller one, in the new container at Walmart, I think it's like 10, $11. And so it's like, I'll wait a while. I've got plenty of the older containers from Humphreys, so I'll be quite all right with witch hazel for a moment. Do have some Thayers also. Go ahead and get this. To me, this black amber is it is pretty nice. As of describing it, it is hard for me. I try to figure this out, put my finger on what I'm smelling, and I pick up the amber, but then the black, it's just not only amber that my nose picks up, and that's just right off the container. Once you put it on your face, on your skin, it may interact with your skin a little bit different and come up with a little bit different scent than what you get right off the container. But for me, I still smell the same thing, and it does smell good. Don't see this too much in the way of shave of the days, but I'm telling you, this one here might be worth a try. I got a link down below. I guess you might see this might be something that you might find in a barber shop, depending on where you're at. This one here is Santa Ana, California, so maybe on the West Coast this might be somewhat more popular or more readily available than here in Oklahoma. I don't see it much around here. I had a great shave this morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Stay healthy, stay safe. Smooth shaves to you.